All right, I'm going to make a small impromptu video on why a biblical day is not sunset to sunset. A biblical day is sunrise to sunrise. That is when a biblical day begins. Now, how do I know, right? We're not even going to start in Genesis 1. We're going to start in Matthew 28. Now, watch this. It says here, in the end of the Sabbath. So here's a time statement. The time statement is the end of the Sabbath. As it began to dawn, meaning we're in the beginning stages of the sun coming up. So at the time that the sun is coming up, it's called the end of the Sabbath. Interesting, because a Sabbath shouldn't be ending until the sun is going down, if that's how the Jews understood it. Now remember, this is Matthew. This is Matthew Levi, a Jew. So he would know. So this Jew is putting in his book that it's the end of the Sabbath as the sun is rising, not as the sun is setting, which is what the sundown to sundown people believe. Let's keep reading. It says, in the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn, meaning the sun is coming up toward what? The first day of the week. Came Mary Magdalene and the other Mary to see the sepulcher. Interesting. But you know what? What's more interesting is John's account. Let's go to John chapter 20. John chapter 20 gives you the same account from John's perspective. Now, John is also an Israelite. He's also a Jew. He's also from the culture. Let's see culturally how John understood the days of the Bible, right? Let's see how the Jews understood it. The first day of the week cometh Mary Magdalene early when it was yet dark. Now pay attention. Matthew's account said that it began to dawn, meaning the sun was beginning to rise. So of course it would still be dark. It's heading toward the first day of the week. The sun is rising to usher in the first day. Interesting. But it wasn't fully illuminated yet, which is why Matthew calls it the end of the Sabbath. But in order for sundown to make sense, without you calling the New Testament false, this would all have to be happening at sunset instead of sunrise. But it's not. Let's keep reading. Because I think that just these two verses alone, plus Mark's account, plus Luke's account, all point to how we should understand the biblical day. Unless you're saying that John, who is a Jew, and Matthew, who is a Jew, and Mark, who knew the Jews that walked with Jesus, and Luke, who knew the Jews that walked with Jesus, are all wrong. And we have a superior understanding of Genesis chapter 1, which I'll get into Genesis chapter 1, right? We're going to get into that next because for some reason, that's a proof text for people, right? It says, the first day of the week cometh Mary Magdalene early when it was yet dark. Remember, Matthew said in the end of the Sabbath. The Sabbath is over. The seventh day is over at the ushering in of the first day. It says, and seeth the stone taken away from the sepulcher. Okay, cool. Now let's go down to John chapter 20 and verse 20. And I find this 19. This is very interesting. It says, then the same day at evening. So now they're at sunset. Being the first day of the week, when the doors were shut where the disciples were assembled for fear of the Jews, came Jesus and stood in the midst and saith unto them, peace be unto you. Why is the evening here still being referred to as the first day? They're at sunset. Shouldn't it be the second day of the week? Of course not. Of course it shouldn't, because according to John 20 and 1, the day began while the sun was coming up. According to Matthew, the day began while the sun was coming up. Let's look at Luke's account, right? So we got two very strong accounts. Let's go to Luke chapter 24. This is the book of Luke, chapter 24 and verse 1. Now, upon the first day of the week, very early in the morning. Interesting. So Matthew's account and John's account say that the sun is rising, the Sabbath is ending, the seventh day is ending, the sun is rising toward the first day of the week. Luke's account is saying, let's keep reading. They came unto the sepulchre, bringing the spices which they had prepared, and certain others with them.